What is good, rookies? Welcome to our round 15 review and preview for round 16. We're probably going to be dropping our videos back to about once a week, maybe twice a week, depending on time, just as we're getting into the latter half of the season. And there's not really too much to discuss other than review and potential updates in rankings, just because our team's practically done, and I'm not at all happy with how we've gone with our selections and the trades that we've made. So we're probably going to do one video per week, a bit longer, just to review our team, how we went in the previous round, and what our plans are moving forward, if there are any, other than sitting in a corner and planning for next season. Because I don't think there's much more we can do to save what we're currently doing, unless there's injuries or anything like that. So we're kind of just finalizing a bed of nails that we now have to lay in. However, to jump into round 15, we scored a 2045, which is when we were looking at projections at the start of the round, we were sitting about around 2025. And I was feeling good about this projection. And then the round started and everyone was just tonning up. And then the projection skyrocketed. So my projection of, 20, just over 2000 wasn't looking great. I did have other projections climbing up to about 2200, but due to a couple of poor picks and well underperforming primos, we kind of caught the buck end of it. We still managed to pretty much hold rank. We didn't go too far. I feel like we're just in the top 10%, and just went out around closer to 1200 ranks up. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal at all. Still somehow managed to win 16 out of 17 league wins, but we didn't see red, which is good. But I'm also very concerned about what our play is for this coming week and the coming rounds to finalize our team, and how we actually get our fucking full 22 primo on field. But anyway, 2045, not bad, not great. So jumping in to review our team, this is what we kind of rolled with. It just seems to be that our trade-in times have been piss poor, given the primos that we've been looking to bring in. Now, as you can see with the layout of the video, I've gone back to old school just because there's not too much information to show anymore. So I'm not going to bombard it and take up wasted space. We're just going to leave it with the pretty blacks of what this Supercoach page it looks like. So the highlighted players, so we'll have a quick review of our trade-ins and see how they went. So we traded in Holmes, Ridley, and Kerno. I'm quite disappointed in Ridley. I'm not sure what was happening. He just couldn't pull. He had a decent fourth quarter, but he just couldn't pull it together the whole game to do what we have seen him do. He was due for a down game. We probably should have seen this. We could have spent that money elsewhere on like a Whitfield who still managed to ton up even with Sydney doing Sydney things. The smarter move would have been save more money and go Ridley. But we're just ultimately going for pod plays here because we had Whitney that we should have gone with, and he's still a decent option around 530. But we're just pretty much looking to go for pods only just to have a chance at climbing potentially, while we have to field an on-field rookie until someone drops or we get some more cash gen injected with our very low trade count. We're pretty much going to be trading up to get everyone on field and not even worry about injury trades. I think we're just throwing that idea out the window at this point. But any standouts for this round? Our captain Merritt ended up pulling it together for a 135, which was good. Decent captaincy score. We had Houston ton up. We had Holmes ton up. Sexton actually got us 80, which was actually useful. I don't think we expected an 80 from him. We expected a lot more from Ridley. Flanders 117, again, has not gone under a ton. This man is amazing. Sarong a 121, Butters a 123, even a Martin a 112. So this is a really good kind of bounce back game from what we've seen from Martin before. And then we had Green. I think the star of the week was Green. We've held on to him like most have. He's just bottomed out, and there's really no. I think there was only like 2,000 people that traded him out before the round, which would have stung very, very hard. But we also copped the other end of the stick. So we held a underperforming primo and got rewarded. We also held one and got absolutely demolished. Mr. Clayton Oliver. What a fucking pleb. he is no longer a pig for the ball. If anything, he's like Babe. He is just he got tagged. He didn't know what to do, and this was always the risk holding on to Clary with Petrarca out. Is that he would be the tag target, and he certainly was. The one person that's kind of stepped up into that position and taken that midfield role is Rivers, and some people had called this as well, which was a really good call, really good pickup. I'm not a D supporter, but a few D supporters were saying that Rivers has been waiting for that chance to go in the midfield, and he's got it. And it seems like he's going to hold that role, so he could potentially be a play at around 450. But Clayton, this was a bad trade in. The signs were there not to bring him in. We were hoping he'd turn it around because we saw what he did last season, and it just never happened. Never happened. Jackson, a poor 66. Again, this is the catch with Jackson. And Darcy's having a good game. Jackson's generally having a bad game. Gorn, 114, just managed. Heaney, 112, average. Zorko, turned up, great. Fisher, just turned up. He had an amazing fourth quarter. Kerno is probably one of the best trade-ins we've made for a debut as well. Outside of English, I think English popped off like a 130 when we debuted him. So very happy with the trade in Kerno. And we just had some really poor cover with McMullen and Hutchinson. Hutchinson got subbed in very late into the game. McMullen actually played the full game. He didn't get obviously full time on ground, but he wasn't subbed out and wasn't starting sub, and he actually played quite well. He got thrown in some midfield time. Watched a fair bit of this game, and he actually worked quite well. So I think the Suns work a lot better with McMullen in playing within the field. He's had a lot of great scoring potential, and he just found a bit more of the ball. So I'm definitely not complaining about a 65. Like, he did more than Clark, did more than Oliver. Just crazy. Almost did more than Ridley and Sexton. So this is probably really good. Hopefully he maintains this sort of role where because I had Peatling starting on sub. So this is good. This is good for McMullen and his potential price rise that we can get from him, and potential cover if needed. Outside of that, our team was in shambles. It was not good. Everyone else had other people that turned up. Sheasel played great. It was not good for our team. But I'm sure everyone else has had their team review done, and you've kind of looked at what you want to do for the time loading into round 16. So really, given our limited options, what are our plans here? There's a few different things we can look at. We've obviously got Sexton on field. We've also got Clary and Clark on field. We're just going to quickly optimize this just to bring the right people on field. These guys are never going to catch the emergency. Clark might. But this is what we're looking at without doing any trade, sitting at a 2,500, which is okay. Seen some projections at like 27-ish, and that's just fucking nuts. I think Gorn is definitely unders from his projection. Yeah, I don't think he's copping at 80 at all. So I think this is definitely unders, which then means that the 2,700s are unders because they will predominantly have Gorn, I'm assuming. And obviously the captaincy and VC is quite ridiculous. I'm actually backing in Gorn on Friday night for an early VC. Hopefully get our captaincy out of the way so we don't have to stress about that. Our backup option is probably looking to be Merritt again. Because I have a feeling that Merritt against Geelong is just going to absolutely smash. We can see a tag, cannot stop him. Geelong aren't really going to tag, and if they do, they're probably going to bring on O'Connor, who's not like the best tagger. I don't think he's going to keep up with Merritt. So I think Merritt's due to pop off. His previous scores, we're going to have to turn this extension off. It's about to get bright, so I apologize. They're not great. They're not great. So they're not great indicators leading into this round, but I actually think, given the form that Merritt's in at the moment, I think he's due to pop off against Geelong, which is hard because Geelong, the category are my boys. So that sucks. But I think we're going to back in Merritt as a little C. Sneaky C option on the Sadie. I think other options we'll go into shortly. Again, we're going to have longer form videos for this because I do realize that in some videos I don't get around to general VC options or trade-in options. But speaking of trade-ins, let's have a look to see what everyone is doing so far for trade-ins. Now, we're going to look at the top 5% or 10% just because that's what we're aiming for. Top 1% we'll look at shortly as well. But generally, what I like to do, as I previously mentioned, is go through the top 1%, go through the round change. a lot of people are targeting Rankin. I think this is probably a great trade if you're looking to finish your forward line. If you have to go between Rankin and Kerno, I'd still probably go Kerno. I think Rankin, he's already injured himself, so the likeliness of him re-injuring himself potentially goes up. Adelaide aren't in the greatest of forms at the moment. You've got Laird potentially taking more CBA time, which means Rankin might get put forward. There's just some. I never really liked the Rankin pick that much, especially when you look at Kerno's run home. But I still think if you're looking to finish your forward line, Rankin's a great choice. I don't think you can go wrong with that. Rosie, obviously a very clear trade in for the value of what you could potentially be getting. Obviously, he's already kind of strained himself, so there is a bit of concern there. But at 410, I don't think you can really go wrong, especially as like a 23rd. If you're at that amazing stage, never see a 23rd, but that's okay. Kerno, great target, trade in. Obviously, got some rookies as well. You've got some DPP swings, flexibility when needed. You've got Ari, which I think hopefully holding his spot, we could potentially swing into as our trade down target. But we're ultimately looking at Dowling just because it seems like that role is there and he's going to get some consistent games. Hopefully not cop the vest, but we'll see if the reports are and the teams that are listed. This is, we're not going to do a finals team video or anything like that. I think either Ari or Billing are great trade-in options. I would go with whoever's named not sub and potentially named on field. But again, some of these are hard because you don't really know until now before the game, which is quite frustrating actually. Either way, I think Ari has a bit more scoring potential as we've seen. Definitely a better role for Supercoach scoring, so I would be leaning more into Ari than Dowling should the job security hold, but you're really unsure. Merritt, great trade in. Simpkin, I think, is a great one at 400. I think you're really going for value here. Obviously, we saw what he did last week. Abs Magic, that boy, the Skodfather, made a great call dragging him in. He said we're all going to be surprised, and that man was right. So can he maintain it? We hope so. North are in actually really good form at the moment. So if they maintain that, it's hard with these North players like Simpkin and like Wardlaw. If you look at their previous scores, they were quite average. And it's more of a tale of when North play good, they score well. But when they don't score well. Which for a team like North can be quite concerning. Whereas, you get someone like a Merritt, even when Essendon play bad, you can expect maybe a 90 at least. Whereas a Simpkin can give you a 60. So, bit annoying. Cardwell, I think, is actually a better pick at the moment from what I have seen. What, you look at the previous records of what, the scores that Simpkin have put out versus Cardwell. Cardwell's actually been playing really well and getting more CBA time. Obviously, Parrish is out, though. With Parrish in, what does that look like? There has been, I'll see if I can repost it on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, I'll repost a breakdown of his scoring with Parrish in the side versus out. So that's a really good thing to look at when looking at trainings as well is, what is affecting their score, what could affect their score, and obviously their run home is more important than ever. Connor Brown, great downgrade choice. LDU is, I think if you're looking for like a pod primo, I think you can, and this is like to finalize your team and you've got the cash, I think he's still a great trade in target. His ownership is only at 28% of the top 1%. So I still think this is a potential lighter pod at the moment. I think a lot of people saw the potential breakout that he was having and just brought him in. I still think it's a great trade in. Same for Lockie Neal, same for Gordon. I think even paying what you're paying for Gordon is good if he maintains it. Obviously sitting in great form. Gordon's just been firing the ball and doing a lot of good stuff. But he's almost up to 50% ownership in the top 1%. So that was a very big miss on our part. Yo was also a big miss for trade-in. Popped out at 134, which is great. But he also has unfortunately had a family death. Father passed away this week. So really unfortunate to hear and thoughts go out to his family. But there is a chance he misses this week due to that. Which, Supercoach aside, hope you just hope the best and hope he's tracking okay. Otherwise, Supercoach, you just put your score aside and go, yeah, this is just how it works sometimes. Hayden Young finding really good form, just between the midfield, covering some halfback. A lot of good kick-ins with 50s. I think he even scored a goal or two, which is crazy. So he's actually looking in really good form. And at 528 with DPP, I think given where we're at, he's not a bad option. I definitely am considering it, but I also have a fair few Fremantle players already, so I'm not 100% confident in just like stacking my team with Freo, especially given their form of late. It's not that great. Grundy still a great choice. Dunkley, I still prefer Dunkley over Neil. Dunkley, I think, is just a great trade-in option if you want to finish your midfield. Considering have the option to bring him in, I'm more than likely going to go a defender in hopes that we can get some more consistent scoring points because midfield has a habit of bringing out some frauds. And that's where we're looking at for trade-ins, trade-outs. No surprise here. Clayton Oliver is just pissed off almost everyone as Supercoach, and even if you can't afford to get rid of him, you're still getting rid of him at this point. I think that's what we're doing. I think we're just trying to minimize our on-field rookie score and just try to get in some potential pods that are just going to blow up for the second half of this season. Sexton, an ideal trade out. We're actually going to hold for now. Hope he makes more, a little bit more cash. And same with Clark. I think we're going to be trading out Clark, even though we're not looking to have bench cover. I think we're just going to risk it. And all these trade outs just make complete sense. Fife, I think he just needs to go. Reville, you could keep him for cover. With Ashcroft coming back, it looks more likely that he's going to be affected, so it could be a great trade out. Fraser, unsure actually. I think Fraser's actually a better hold than Reville if you need cover. Guess we'll see this week. Salem and Steele, not bad at all. I actually still think Steele would have been a hold. I really wish we didn't have to trade out Naz, but probably shouldn't have. We should have just copped a low score. It would have just helped us in the back end, but that is what it is. Jackson, again, people are getting sick of these inconsistent scores. Dawson, Shaw, Sullivan, yep. Don't know why people are trading out Dale. I don't know why, but sure. I think Dale actually could do quite well. Horn Francis, potentially. What did he score over the 85? It could be a 23rd, potentially. All these make sense. People are trading out Carl Warner already after a little cash increase. That doesn't make sense, I suppose. But hey, if you're finishing your team, that's fine. People are getting off Ridley. Some of these trade outs are crazy. But it is what it is. This is what we generally look at when we're looking at trades, or at least what I do, just to help get an indication on what potential plays could be had. So then diving back into our shit show of a team, which we should just rename ourselves Pods Are Us for next season, because I think that's just going to be the play, just value picks and pods. See what happens. What do we want to do? So we have pretty much two trade out options. If we're trading out Clary, we're keeping Sexton. If we're trading out Sexton, we're keeping Clary. Are we trading out Clark? Or are we leaving it for cover? And we're just going to drop Garcia. So let's look at the scenario where we drop Sexton and drop Garcia. What can we do here? We've got 640. Let's try and maximize the cash we can spend. So we're just going to bring in a Brown just to work with whatever cash we have. So then we've got 5-4-2. Like what forward line we're not really going to touch. We're going to send Zorko back down there. Well, what can we do in the midfield with that? And honestly, in the midfield, which is a real shame, because we need it. We're looking at a Rao, which I don't really like the form of. A Laird could be a great pod pick. He popped off last week for a 141. Seems to be getting some more mid-time. Could be a great pod pick. Cripps could also be a good pick. A little bit more inconsistent. But again, the Blues have a really good run home. He's popped off against Richmond. Like this could actually be kind of a pod BC pick actually too, or C pick, because he has a really good track record against Richmond. But if we look at his last few scores, yeah, his floor is about 70. He can put out a 75, but otherwise he's either going like 100, 120 plus, or just under a ton. He's actually looking in great form. And he's not a bad pod pick. What's his ownership at the moment? Only 6%. So he's definitely a pod. Definitely a pod. Bradshaw, I wouldn't touch, even though he just popped off for an absolute game. But again, like he isn't that bad of a pick. It's yeah, I don't feel safe about it. But at 500, could 3%. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'd happily pay the extra 28K and get Young in. He's obviously in a lot more teams, a little bit more of a steady line, and he's got a decent run coming up after Sydney, Richmond, Hawth, then West Coast. He's all right. He's all right. And his current last scores, like he's gone at 3 tons, then 80, then a 130, 130, then 65. Like he can have the floor over 60, but his time on ground isn't great as well. But he got a 130 with an 83% time on ground. Like 83 minutes on ground, sorry. Like the potential's there. He's back at his starting price too. So he could definitely be a play. I don't know what his projected is. I'm actually curious. Is projected to go 110. So for 530 for another DPP cover, which we could then switch with Dacos, Holmes, and Martin. Not too bad. Outside of that, luggage, he popped off and then he's on 163. Like he's gone for 163. That's nuts. Viney, wouldn't touch. Hardwell, great trade-in option. Hewitt, not bad. Yeah. Wardlaw, again, this is one of those pod picks, but I feel like this is very team dependent on how it goes. It's actually 5% ownership. He went off for a while. Like, his 3-round average is fucking 119. Like he's been playing so well. I'd be more inclined to go him over Bradshaw if you're going to go for a pod. Who else are we looking at? Durham had a great game. Durham was an absolute fucking weapon. If he maintains that form, he's definitely going to be like a potential value pick for next year to start with. Ed Richards, I still think for defense could be a play. Obviously, you're not really sure on how consistent that's going to be. I haven't really paid too much attention to Richards, but we'll see how we go. But that's like our midfield. What happens if we swing good on Martin? What do we have? So we have Young, and we've got Lockie around the same price. Now, these guys are sitting quite similar in regards to their total points and current average. Lockie's been having a better 3-round average. I do like Whitfield a bit more than Young simply because of the kick-in and the designated kicker. I tend to fall into designated kickers more than someone else with a bit of a mixed role. But again, Young has proven that he can, do so well. Do so well. So if we're gonna, because they're basically the same price, if we were gonna look at anyone, we'd look at Whitfield. That's pretty simple. Anyone else? There's really no one else. It's literally those two. We're not going to bring in Stewart again. Rivers is actually a good value pick. If we look at his last 2 games, since he's kind of gone into the midfield, he had pretty average, turned up a couple of times, but back-to-back games, one against Collingwood as well. North, obviously, I don't know if we can even say it was an easy game because they were getting smashed for most of it. 131. Does this? He's been confirmed to maintain the midfield role for 450, saving 50K. Do you take the risk this far into the season? If you've got a team like I do, and you're just kind of throwing something at the wall to see what sticks, 100% go with it. I'm actually considering it because it means that we get rid of 2 rookies. We get a potential primo on field, and just kind of risk it. But again, we're relying on a midfield role for them to play well. And if he plays well, he could get tag attention. But I doubt it, just because they've got Clary. Which in this case, if we were to bring in Rivers, we'd be trading out Oliver 100% and just banking the cash. There's no way I trade out Sexton for Rivers and keep Clary. That's not possible. I refuse to do that. So we could look at Whitfield. This is what we're looking like. So we either go someone in the midfield, like a Laird, or a Cripps, or a Young. Or in the back line, we go Whitfield or Young. What do we do? And that's getting Sexton and Gussie out of the picture. We keep Clark for cover, even though it's poor cover. But we have to get Brown in. Because that's all we can do. All we can do. Or we go Rivers and get in Dowling or Ari, for example. This will be very dependent. The dependency on this is going to be due to the team sheets, because that's going to depend on what rookie we pick. If the rookies are subs in regards to Dowling or Ari, we're just going to bring in a 102k and try and maximize points on field with better primos. But if Dowling or Ari are not named sub or if they're named on field, for example, we're going to bring in them because we want potential cash gen to use our last 2 trades to get our last primo spot filled late, admittedly. But that's what kind of we're looking like. The other option here, so let's just say, for example, we do this. If we bring in Young, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Freo players. I generally don't like to have more than 3. I don't know why, but just no thank you. No thank you. But it could work if we look at this. And we're going to bring McMullen on instead. We actually get decent-ish score, kind of. But we're definitely not maximizing. We're definitely like playing some odds here with some midfield and some roles, which are more dependent on complete team form. If we bring in Lockyer, for example, still looking around very similar, but we bring in a designated kicker, which I feel like has more potential to be more consistent. But it is Whitfield, and he is a tag target as well. But in regards to the run home, we look out, compare it to Young. We've got Richmond, Hawthorn, and that's it. So Young's obviously got a better run home. Much, much better. Not as good as Cripps. So I do like the idea of bringing in Cripps, simply because of the run home. Because we've got Kerno. I would like to take advantage of their run home and bring in Cripps as a pod. For sure. And then we're currently sitting at 507. So he hasn't got a great projector. He's got 103. Could pop off. Like, why not? But then we have to keep Clary, which is fucking annoying. I don't want to own him at all. I'm more inclined to trade out Clary than I am Sexton. So we're going to optimize this. What we're actually going to do, we're going to trade Clary out. Get him out. We're going to throw Garcia out as well. We're going to throw Zorko down there. And we're going to bring Martin down. Now, who can we get? Now, I like the idea of bringing in Dowling, for example. Because what I'll do is I'll bring Zork to the mid. Go break even. Bring in Dowling for this example. We've got 558. Who can we get in now as a defense? Because this is, again, where we're currently looking. We're just going to change it to players I can afford. Like, cool. We can get McGovern. We can get Young. We can get Yo. We can get a few decent people. If you have a look at our average, we've got Ridley. I'm not really looking at McGovern or Yo at the moment. I am looking at the sick dog. For whatever reason, I just want to bring in the sick dog because it's the sick dog. That's it. I want to have fun. This looks like a fun backline. We've got Holmes, who has potential to go to 130. We've got Ridley, who's shown his ceiling. Sicily, I also like his run against West Coast. He's gone 134 previously. Now, given he's had a bit of an injury flare up this season, so I am kind of reluctant to do that. But we could also just do the plan and just get Whitfield in or getting Cripps. If we'd move this up, who else can we actually get from the midfield? There's much change. We go average. We've got Walsh, so we can bring in Walsh. What's his record against Richmond? Not as good as Cripps. And he's got a back problem. Cripps is in fine form. Anyone else that we can look at? Not really. We get the same. We can bring in a Young. We can bring in a Whitfield. We can still do that. But let's try and maximize the cash. And in this case, I'd still be looking at probably sick dog. I'd take the risk because what do we got to lose? And I'll bring in the sick dog and just play pod because he is currently 9% owned. Then we'd have a 9% owned player, a 14% owned, and a 10% owned. So we have definitely a pod backline for sure. Relatively, we've moved some forwards up into our midfield because our forward line's in shambles. Nothing's changed. It is what it is. We're not even going to even consider trying to find money to bring in Rankin because that's just silly. But this is an option. I actually don't mind this. However, after looking at a few more trades, and I feel like this is the one I'm leaning towards more, is we trade out Clary. Well, actually, let's just optimize our field first. We're going to bring in Clary. Not bring in Clary. I wish I never did. We're going to trade out Clary, but we're also going to trade out Clark. I think with Dangerfield not missing a game, I think Dangerfield being back in the team definitely affects Clark's scoring and time. We've got 17-13 to look at now. So what can we do? We obviously don't hold Garcia. But what we want to do here is we have a lot more to work with. So we can still bring in like a Dowling, for example. Bring him in. And then we've got 5, 8, 9. So now we can really look at who we want. Like, who do we really want in here? Well, if we have a look at our defensive players, look at averages, we can't get Sheasel, which is fine. Annoying. I wonder if we can get the Sheasel, actually. If we... Wait a minute. Have I just realized something? Can we bring in the Shees? Are we wasting a trade to bring in Shees? Are we burning 2 trades to trade him out and then trade him back in? Are we actually doing this? Let's optimize this, because that's wrong. Interesting. Very interesting. We have no bench cover, but we're not opting for bench cover. The only cover we need anything on is a forward line. If we get injuries, we get injuries. It is what it is. I'm contemplating bringing Shees in just because he's a D3 at the moment, and we need D3, and then we can have pods. The alternative to this is we're bringing Sinclair. Imagine bringing in Sinclair, because he has been on a hot run. 3-run average of 128. Are you kidding me? Can he maintain this form? St Kilda have a great run home. They have West Coast. They have Richmond. They have Geelong. But look at the Marvel run. Absolutely crazy. He's got some good previous scores against these teams. His last 3 scores are 102, 147, 135. Before that, a 99, a 110, 80, a 130. Like he's not a Sheasel, but he's a Sinclair. I'm considering this because that also means that we can bring in Dowling as cover, which I do like the idea of. But with that 580, 596, 10, we can actually bring in anyone we want. And I just think Sinclair can be a bit of the pod. Obviously, everyone owns Sheasel, so podding against Sheasel is not something we want to do. But he's currently in 6% of teams. So I'm contemplating it. I'm contemplating Sinclair over Sheasel, over anyone else, over the sick dog. We can bring in Dunkley, and bring in a midfielder that whoever we want. But I like the idea of bringing in someone with again more DPP, so we can swing out Martin, Dacos, anyone. But it also means we get cover in the midfield. Should we have any injuries with Dowling? Unfortunately, Adelaide versus Greater West Sydney, so we can't really loop Dowling and McMullen, which is fucking annoying. This will also be dependent on if McMullen's named sub, or if Dowling's named sub. Whoever's not sub is getting on field, basically. But this is what we're currently looking like. This is what I feel like is going to be the best option moving forward for our trades. For VCC options, I think Gawn is probably a safe bet. He hasn't done... he's gone 138 and 215. Brisbane are generally pretty hard against rucks. They're pretty restrictive, second in the league. But Gawn just has a way. And I think after the struggles that they've had at the moment, I think Gawn is probably about to put Melbourne back on his shoulders, and just kind of try and ride the season home strong. So I think Gawn's due for a big one because he's had a few quiet games lately. Like he's still played well by all means. Don't get me wrong, but I think like he's had a 114, a 132, a 95, a 180, 109. Like he's due for another big score. Like let's be honest, he's due for it. And this is Gawn. Purely, if it was anyone else, we wouldn't expect it, but we expect it from Gawn because he's Gawn. He's R1. Like give it to us. English, we need to pop off. Like he's playing against Zeri. I think Zeri might demolish him, to be honest. That's a concern. Anyway, this is what we're going to roll with for our trades. VC options, we're looking at Gawn as a VC. I think, what do we got? Brisbane. I think Neil could be a decent VC. Dunkley could be a decent VC. I don't think Zorko is an option. I don't think he has the best track record. Yeah, I wouldn't potentially. Zorko could be. I think any of the Dunkley, Zorko, or Neil. I think whoever you have more faith in, I think that's a solid VC option. Northern Bulldogs. Bont has had an injury cloud for his back this week. But we heard that about the flu and he fucking popped off. So it could be another one of those situations. I think Bont's still a very safe VC option if you don't want to go to the Friday night game. What's his record? 169 against North, 102. Like he could 100% pop off. North, LDU maybe. I think you could look at LDU. Potentially Zeri. I think Zeri you could potentially potentially. A bit of a pod VC option, but it's a VC option for a reason. Sydney Fremantle. Do we trust Ryan anymore? Like he's had 2 horrible back-to-back games. I think he's losing his potency as a VC or C option. I think Gordon, definitely a safe bet for a VC option. I wouldn't touch Warner. Heaney, potentially. What's his previous run like? Yeah, not great. But he's in different form this season. He is looking pretty strong. He could pop off for sure. Dacos and Flanders, I definitely think are good options. I don't think you touch anyone else from those teams, but I definitely think if you need a VC or a C on a Saturday, I think Dacos or Flanders can be a great choice. I would go more Dacos because we know he has more potential to reach his ceiling. Flanders, we know he can have a ceiling, but he's more than likely sitting around the 110 to 115 mark or just above. I don't think I would look at anyone from Adelaide. Definitely looking at Merritt against Geelong. Maybe a Ridley because Hawkins is out. Depends on who they bring in. Yeah, interesting. I think Kilda could go Sinclair. I wonder who Drew's going to go to. Drew will probably go to Steele. So I probably wouldn't, if you got Steele, wouldn't touch him. Naz is probably going to be back in. So Sinclair could have a free run without a tag. Butters, you would assume is going to get the Windhager tag. So I would not do anything with Butters. Richmond, I think if you have like a Cribs or a Walsh or a TDK, I think TDK will probably tear it up against Stankovis if Pitternet is not back. I think Walsh or Cribs is potentially a decently safe C option. And then you've got West Coast versus Hawthorn. Will Day could be a shout. Sick Dog potentially. I don't know about Moore. I think Moore's a bit inconsistent. I don't think you can safely put anything on him in regards to VC or C. But I think Will Day could be a shout. Yo, if he plays, potentially. And that's about it for West Coast. For myself, I think I'm going to leave the VC on Gawn just to have a crack. And then I think the C option is going to be a last minute call. I think I'm leaning towards more Merritt against Geelong. Yeah, but Sinclair could fucking go nuts on Port too, potentially. We'll leave it on Flanders at the moment just because we want to see a nice, pretty projected score. But we're going to go Merritt. And that will conclude our long form video. It's been 40 minutes. If you've made it this far, firstly, congrats. This has been the longest video I've recorded. So thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, leave a like, hit subscribe. The last video got 400 plus views, which is fucking nuts. Nearly at 60 subscribers. So if we can get to 60, that'd be sick. I just do it when I have time and because I enjoy making content and showing everyone my abysmal team. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the journey so far. Our season is very, very much over. So we're just trying to enjoy the ride. So let me know what your trade-ins are. Let me know how many trades you have left and who you're looking to throw your VC and C on this week. And I will see you guys in the next video reviewing our rounds and how poorly our trade-ins went.